Donny and Marie Osmond smiled on stage for decades, but things were going badly between them behind the scenes. It had been 11 years since their Las Vegas show, and by 2019 they couldn't even kiss. The meet and greets were different. Promotional items were shot one at a time. The case that made everything public was something that no one saw. America's most famous brother duo were torn apart by claims of greed, trickery, and betrayal. People in America's best family lost touch with each other. Her birthday is October 13, 1959, and she was born in Ogden, Utah. She was the only girl in a house full of boys and the eighth of 9 children. Marie's early years were different, though. It was performance night for the boys, so she stayed home with her mother. There was music playing in the background all the time. Marie once said that she couldn't remember a single day as a child when she didn't hear or practice music. The music filled the room, even though she wasn't acting yet. She and Donny were very close. They played and laughed together all the time, and their crazy energy sometimes drove their mother crazy. But the Osmond story started with a sad turn. Verl and Tom, the first 2 kids, had a lot of trouble hearing when they were born. Dearess, George and Olive Osmond told them not to have any more children. They even told them to put the boys in a home for boys, but Olive refused. Her faith made her trust something stronger than doctors. She taught her kids at home and decided to have more children. Because of that choice, 7 more children were born. All of them could hear fine. In a strange way, Verl and Tom's hearing problems were what pushed the family into show business. Starting in 1958, the boys put on shows to raise money for hearing aids. What started as a need quickly turned into something much bigger. George, their dad, ran the house like a drill master. He was disciplined while in the U.S. Army and brought that home with him. Relay played a bugle in the mornings. Military-style sound-offs were used to announce meals. Someone spanked you if you were rude, but George wasn't mean, he loved them. Donny remembered how funny those early years were. George expected perfection even though there were rules, not only in how they act, but also in how they achieve. Not a single move or note could be wrong. The family business started out small, with shows at a nearby church. Alan began when he was only 8 years old. Jay was only 2 years old. In the late 1950s, a lucky meeting at Disney and changed everything. People saw the boys singing on Main Street, and soon they were being asked to be on national TV. They went on the Andy Williams show, and Donny sang You Are My Sunshine for the first time. He was only 5 years old. Their fame grew quickly, but it cost them something. Practices took the place of school. I spent all of my life on tours, but they worked. They did very well financially. Marie took a chance when she was 13. She made a demo of Coat of Many Colors by Dolly Parton. MGM Records signed her right away because they liked what they heard. On her first trip, she flew to Nashville and taped 9 songs. Everyone was amazed at how focused and ready she was. This was her first show as a solo artist. It came out in 1973 when she was only 14 years old. It became a hit right away. #1 on the country chart in the US, #5 on the pop chart, and #2 in the UK. She was the youngest female country artist to have a #1 single in the US. After that, her record went straight to the top of the country charts, showing that she wasn't just a one-hit wonder. After that, Marie had more hits, Who's Sorry Now and In My Little Corner of the World. After that came the duet age. She worked with Donny on the hit song I'm Leaving It All Up to You. And they kept making music together. They stayed on top of the charts with hits like Morning Side of the Mountain and Deep Purple. Donny taped One Bad Apple when he was 12 years old, and something clicked. He stopped singing like a machine and began to think like an artist. He wasn't just saying lines for the first time, he felt them. That small change would make him an artist instead of a cute kid on stage. That's when things really went crazy. In the early 1970s, Donny was more than just well-known. He was a huge teen star. The UK was one of the places where Osmond mania really took off. Girls yelled his name, ran after his car, crowded hotels, and packed every place he went. It got so crazy that Donny had to hide under a restaurant table to get away from a crowd of fans. Their 13 songs made it to the top of the charts in the UK in 1973 alone. People were going crazy, not hyped up. His shows were so loud that screams drowned out the music. Even when he played in Nashville, the fans were so loud that it seemed like the sound could break through the walls. Also, teen magazines couldn't get enough of him. His face was all over the place from Tiger Beat to 16. The girls loved him, but their boys didn't like him. Most people never saw how that mix of love and hate changed Donny's life. Fans screamed with love, but naysayers got their knives ready. Donny got one of the worst reviews in the history of music when he was only 15. Rolling Stone magazine called the day he was born the worst day in rock history. He thought about it all the time. He was just a kid trying to figure out who he was when all of a sudden, the world's biggest music magazine said he was a mistake. It broke his heart. In the end, he said it was the worst kind of bullying. It kept going. In the 1980s, his name was used as a joke in the music business. No one wanted to be linked to guitarist Phil Collen of Def Leppard, who played on Donny's record, so his name had to be taken out of the credits. Even after shows that were packed to the brim, the next day media bashed him. That kind of difference. At night, jokes and insults left marks that were hard to get rid of in the morning. It hurt more than just their feelings, though. It also got rough. Donny was going into a hotel in Manchester one night when a fan rushed him. She charged at him with a pen and a signing book. She didn't mean to hurt you, to spend a moment with her idol. The pen went right into his eye when she hugged him, though. At that very moment, a camera flash went off. The light burned into his eye, which was already hurt, and made a mark on his retina that will never go away. He almost went blind. Donny thinks about it every day. The scar is still there to remind me of how quickly fame can change from love to danger. But he didn't blame the girl. Instead, he felt sorry for her. She didn't know, he said. She was just overwhelmed. At the same time, Marie's trip was full of problems. She became famous on the hit show Donny and Marie when she was only 15. But there was something much darker going on behind the bright lights and happy performers. People who ran the company were not only strict, but also mean. Marie was already very thin. She only weighed 103 lb. They told her she was too fat, though. They took her to a parking lot one day and made her make a terrible choice. Either you lose 10 pounds or the show is over. That wasn't the end. They told her that her family would be embarrassed if they saw her putting food in her fat face. It was more than just criticism. It was torture for the mind. Marie began to go without food because she really wanted to keep her job. She wouldn't eat for 3 days before a movie shoot sometimes. Sometimes, all she did to stay under 93 pounds was drink lemon water mixed with cayenne pepper and maple syrup. It wasn't safe or good for you, but she felt stuck. She had to deal with that stress for many years. Her weight went up and down many times, and she tried every diet she could find. Over many years, she finally came to terms with what had happened. It wasn't just stress, it was wrong. It also left deep scars, but that wasn't the only bad thing that happened to her. Marie kept another terrible secret from everyone for a long time, before the cameras and the fame. She was raped by people her parents trusted when she was only 8 or 9 years old. Because the abuse was so bad, it changed the way she thought about men forever. They made her sick. She didn't believe them. She had no idea how to act around them. Being confused made her question everything, even who she was. She began to think that she might be gay, not because she wanted to be, but because the abuse had made it hard for her to understand how she felt. Marie first talked about this in her autobiography, and then she talked about it again. Even though her voice was shaking, she was ready to tell the truth. It took a long time to heal. Even though her family wasn't the ones who hurt her, her brothers and father helped her learn to trust again. They showed her that not all men were mean or scary. She began to rebuild slowly. She tried to find love even though she was in a lot of pain. As a young star, she went out with Andy Gibb and the Bee Gees' younger brother. Even though he was nice and smart, drugs took over his life. Marie couldn't do anything about his health getting worse, and she had to leave in the end. It hurt her a lot. Later, she also said for sure that she was dating Chips star Eric Estrada. But she didn't talk much about that part of the story. It wasn't easy to get married either. In 1982, she married Stephen Craig, but the marriage didn't last. After 3 years, they got a divorce. She got married to music producer Brian Blossel in 1986. They were married and had 7 kids together, but the marriage had its problems. In 1998, they broke up because she was dealing with postpartum depression. By 2007, they were no longer married. When Marie thought about it now, she knew she had jumped into the relationship before she fully understood herself. Then something strange happened. She got back together with her first husband, Stephen Craig, after being apart for decades. Things were different this time. Both of them had changed, but they still managed to get along. Don and Marie, his sister, made I'm Leaving It All Up to You in 1974. The song wasn't new, but their take on it was different. It quickly rose to number 1 on the adult current chart and number 4 on the Billboard Hot 100. It had a soft country pop sound. That single with the umbrella song didn't just become a hit. It was the key that let them become a TV star. It was clear that they were attracted to each other, and everyone saw it. They had the chance to be guests on the Mike Douglas show for a week in 1975. Fred Silverman, who runs ABC TV, was watching by chance. He saw something unique, new, charming, and good for families in them. He was brave and gave the 2 teens their own primetime comedy show. Donny was 17 years old. Marie was only 16. That young of someone had never been in charge of a comedy show before. It was risky, but it worked. When Donny and Marie first aired in January 1976, about 14 million people watched it every week. The show became popular very quickly. It was shot at first in Los Angeles and then at the Osmond family studio in Utah. Before they made that move, they fought for more artistic freedom. But even though they looked good on screen, things weren't so great behind the scenes. Marie, who was still a girl, was under a lot of pressure to look a certain way. Producers were always criticizing her weight. They called her an embarrassment and even threatened to take away the jobs of other cast and crew members if she didn't lose weight. One director told her that he was only trying to help her change the way she ate. Because of the stress, she sometimes didn't eat anything for days except water mixed with cayenne pepper, maple syrup, and lemon juice. She became so weak that she could hardly make it through the dances. She felt like the ugly duckling, especially when she was on stage with beautiful guest stars. She said, "The show was a big hit with viewers, but the family's finances were quietly falling apart." After many years, Jimmy Osmond said they had lost between $80 and $100 million because they made bad money choices. They trusted advisors who messed up everything. The family pulled their money out because they thought it would keep them safe, but it almost crushed them. George, their father, tried to protect their future by putting money into many businesses, but many of them failed. Real estate was the only thing that kept them from going bankrupt. They had some property because George made sure they did. When everything else fell apart, selling that property helped them pay their bills. The last blow came from something much closer to home, who Donny is seeing. They got married on May 8, 1978. But he didn't tell anyone about it for 3 years. He knew how it would make people see him. Teenage girls all over the world thought Donny was the perfect guy for them, and their love for him started to fade after they learned he was married. Ratings went down. In order to stay on the air, the show cut popular parts, added dance songs, and even changed its name to the Osmond Family Show. There was no magic left, though. Not the siblings were the ones who chose to end the show in May 1979. That's what it was. The end of their variety show in 1979 was the beginning of the end for Donny Osmond's career. Teen heroes all over the world looked up to him, but all of a sudden, no one wanted to play his songs. Radio stations didn't play him, the record companies weren't interested. It didn't matter that he had more top 40 hits than Michael Jackson by 1978. Donny later said that his past made him feel like he was locked up. He was stuck in his teen years and thought he was not cool. He felt that stress for a while. In the middle of the 1990s, the worry turned into something worse, panic attacks that were too much to handle. He was finally told that he had social anxiety disorder. Before going on stage, he said there were times when he would rather have died than act. When he couldn't stop shaking in bed, his wife Debbie took him to the hospital right away. Marie, his sister, saw everything. She thought back to how, in the 1970s, Donny would sit alone in his dressing room and struggle to stay calm. He kept going anyway. He played the main role in Joseph and the amazing Technicolor Dreamcoat more than 0 times in the US and Canada from 1992 to 1998. They even made a movie about it with Joan Collins and Richard Attenborough in 1999. The part brought his career back to life, but it made him very anxious. Having to act every night was a lot of stress. Donny got so sick one time at a show in Las Vegas that he could hardly stand. He went ahead and did the show anyway. He fell down as the curtain came down. Hands on stage had to carry him off. His costume didn't protect him much, and the fact that he often acted with kids made him even more likely to get sick. One thing changed the way he thought. A chat with the director Stephen Pimlott. Somebody told Donny, the theater is a place where people come to dream in public, and you are in charge of that dream. This made Donny feel better. He will be back on stage in December 2024, but this time he will play the Pharaoh instead of Joseph. Marie was quietly getting better while Donny was trying to get back on his feet. She had trouble too after their show was over, but around the middle of the 1980s, she went back to country music. It was a good idea. She was signed to Capitol Records by a man named Jim Fogliong, who put her together with Dan Seals. The two of them had a #1 hit with Meet Me in Montana. In Canada, it made it into the top 20. They won Singing Duo of the Year at the CMA for it too. The next #1 hit was There's No Stopping Your Heart. She became famous again after that record. Read My Lips was one of the top 5 songs. The #1 single from her next record, I Only Wanted You, was a duet with Paul Davis. It stayed at the top of the country charts for 37 weeks. There were even Grammy nominations for Marie's duo with Dan Seals, which came about because of her comeback. She came back, and this time she was in charge. It was 1998 when TV star Dick Clark had an idea. It was his wish for Donny and Marie to return as hosts of an afternoon talk show. They were both on the fence. They knew it could bring them back to the image they were trying to get away from. They still agreed. In September 1998, the new Donny and Marie show began. There were well-known musicians, a live house band, and a lot of talk about it. But the scores didn't come after. Even though the brothers were up for daytime Emmys in 2000 and 2001, the show ended after only 2 seasons. It was their second failed attempt to bring back the magic of the 1970s. Not everything was lost, though. 10 years later, Donny and Marie started a 6-week engagement at the Flamingo in Las Vegas. It was only meant to last a short time. It had been going on for 11 years instead, end in 2019. It turned out to be one of the best times in their lives. When Marie's music business slowed down again in the late 1980s, she became interested in dolls. She had 8 boys as a child, so dolls were her way to relax. Olive, Marie's mother, made sure she had her own space. About 700 toys from all over the world were owned by Marie by the 1990s. Then the LL Knickerbocker Company asked if they could sell toys on QVC. Marie agreed, but only if she could do everything. She didn't want to sign off on something she didn't believe in. That choice paid off. She helped make almost 200 toys. Because the business did so well, she and her husband bought it and changed its name to Marion. The Olive May doll, which Marie made herself and named after her mother, was one of her favorite things she ever made. It was in Olive's display box until she died. Mary then gave it to her niece Sarah Elizabeth, a nurse who had taken care of Olive in her last year. It wasn't just a business, it was about them. When Marie Osmond was on stage, she always smiled and seemed very strong. She was also always with her brother Donny, but behind that picture was a woman who was in a lot more pain than most people knew. Marie got very sad after giving birth to her seventh child, Matthew, in 1999. She was 40 years old. She had just moved her family to Los Angeles after getting a new deal for a talk show. She was falling apart on the inside, but everything looked fine on the outside. She couldn't handle things one day, so she gave her baby to the nanny and drove 250 miles up the coast to a motel. She finally understood why someone might want to end their life when they were scared and alone. That was the beginning of a long battle with postpartum sadness. When her mother suddenly told her that she had been through the same thing, it helped her heal. Marie hid it for 5 months, thinking the time would pass. It didn't, though. To get better, you had to be brave and get help. After a little more than 10 years, her world fell apart again. His name was Michael, and he was 18. In 2010, he killed himself by jumping from the 8th floor of his Los Angeles apartment. His last name had changed to Brian, and he was depressed, especially after Marie's split from Brian Blossel in 2007. Michael had been to rehab. He did his best. He told Marie the day before he died that he was lonely and didn't have any friends. She said she'd be there on Monday, but sadness doesn't wait. Later, toxicology tests showed that he did not have any drugs or booze in his body. He had been sober, and Marie later told her that people picked on him because of it. She never said who hurt him, she just took the pain on. She still does. People didn't like it when she went back to work just 1 week after Michael's funeral. Some people said she had no heart. Marie did have a reason, though. She told her other kids that she had to teach them how to live, that none of them could die with Michael. It was hard. Even though her kids didn't want to go to school, she told them, "We choose life." Mike would have wanted that. And then she got in trouble. When Marie's daughter Jessica got married in 2019, people made fun of her for being there for her. She didn't give up. She said, "You should never shame anyone, especially for loving your kid." Marie kept working even though it hurt. In 2008, she and Donny agreed to stay in Las Vegas for the short term of 6 weeks. It went on for 11 years. They played 730 shows together and got almost 1 million fans. Their show was the longest, running one of its kind on the Strip. The Flamingo even changed the name of the store to honor them in 2013. Behind the scenes, though, there was a lot of work to do. Marie hurt her knee during a performance, but she kept going on stage with a brace on. She had to crawl up the stairs at home because her muscles hurt so much after practice. She made fun of Donnie's age by saying on live TV that he was 61 years old. But to be honest, the physical pain was getting to both of them. On stage they looked close, but in real life they were not. Marie had 8 kids and was a single mom. Las Vegas helped her get organized. It helped her get back on her feet after Michael died. Donny worked on other things and had his own team and changing room. There were rumors that they were at odds with each other, but Marie laughed them off. Every Day We Get Mad grew up together. Still, things were getting worse. Their show was split up so that each of them could do what they did best. The music Donny liked was pop and theater. Marie turned toward the country. They had long practices, and there were a lot of artistic disagreements, but the show kept getting bigger. It went from 6 weeks to 11 years. The deal kept getting longer. It was too easy to get money. Too many people want it. They had their faces all over the Flamingo's building at one point. People paid a lot of money for tickets to their last shows, but it got harder to hide the cracks. In 2018, Fans noticed that the pictures used to promote the show were taken by different people. The meet and greets were also split up. You might meet either Donny or Marie, but never both. Some people close to them said that they didn't talk much off stage. It then led to a case. Donny was accused by their director of trying to keep him and their agency from making money. The suit said that Donny was dishonest and greedy. Marie was also blamed for keeping quiet. It looked bad and showed how tense things had gotten. Marie tried to branch out in 2013 by getting her own talk show on the Hallmark Channel. It was taken off the air after one season. She thought it would be her big chance to get away from Donny. Instead, it was just one more blow during a hard time in her life. She was still sad about Michael's death, taking care of her kids, and committed to their Vegas show. Some say that her unhappiness with Donny made things worse between them. They tried to keep things light when they finally said that their stay would end in 2019. They said, "We're just going to work on solo projects now." But by early 2023, news reports said Marie had said she would never act with Donny again. "I'll see you at Christmas," Marie said, but that goodbye was more than just the end of a show. It seemed like the end of something bigger. Marie Osmond has been hurt by loss, stress, sadness, and criticism from other people. Still, she always went back to the stage, her kids, and the attention. Not because it was simple, but because she thought people should choose life over and over.